Let me see if I can condense a whole 3 credit hour history of philosophy course into like 10 minutes here on the principle of sufficient reason in 17th and 18th century philosophy. The principle of sufficient reason says that there's a reason for everything why it is the case. If something's true, there's a reason that makes it true. Nothing's just true. Nothing is explained by saying just because. It just was. None of that. Principle of sufficient reason basically is saying that the universe is a rational place. Things make sense. Nothing's truly random. A perfect being theology is going to lead you to the principle of sufficient reason. If you believe in like an ontological argument or a God that is defined by being superlative, you're going to be able to build a very rationalistic worldview around that. Our reason is able to make sense of the world because the world makes sense. The principle of sufficient reason is at the core of the most convincing kind of cosmological arguments for the existence of God, so much so that William Rowe says, basically, if the principle of sufficient reason is true, then it's pretty clear that there is a necessary being. Now, you go the theistic route and say that necessary being is the divine, is God, and the explanation of why all these things in the world are the way they are. Things could have been another way down here, but God, being a necessary being, is the reason why, I'm 5'9" and not 5'10", right? Somehow it goes back to the beginning, back to God as the source of all that is. Or you go the Spinoza route and say, nature itself is the necessary being. Nothing could be other than it is. Things are the way they are because there's no other way they could be. So these rationalistic systems give you a picture of the way the world is. What happens when you call into question principles of knowledge? What happens when you say, hey, these ideas that we find in ourselves are perhaps faulty, or not, maybe not faulty, they're just limited by our perceptions of the world. So David Hume says that there's kind of deductive reasoning on the one hand is kind of a sterile geometrical way of getting to necessary truths, but that's very limited because it's abstracted away from the world. We get perfect truth, deductive reasoning and everything, but it's abstracted away from the world. It's not really about things. Our knowledge of things that are is through the senses, okay? We experience the world through the senses. But notice just how little that you actually experience. I don't know any history through experience. I don't know any general truths through experience. Except Hume says that you do kind of know general truths through experience, right? Your brain takes in experiences and spits out expectations that the future will be pretty much like that. So Hume says we kind of build our knowledge of the world empirically by gathering these experiences and learning from other people's experiences, and then looking to explain those experiences beyond that. Where does the principle of sufficient reason fit in there? Well, I mean, you don't really get a principle of sufficient reason. You use the inductive reasoning that you get to, you can kind of infer that, hey, whenever I've investigated something, I found that there was a reason why it was that way. And you can kind of infer that in all my kind of similar experiences, it'll probably be like that too. But is there like a grand reason? Is the universe actually like a rational place that way? You only know as far as you experience, right? uh you can't make any large claims, and I think this is my friend panpsychist's point on here. You can't make any large claims about the whole of the world being rational, about the origin of the world being rational, because the principle of sufficient reason, it has to be, for a Humean, grounded in kind of our general knowledge of our experience. So we can't make any inferences beyond that, far beyond our experience. So what happens when you become a Kantian? Okay, causation isn't just something that you're experiencing out there in the world. Maybe, to the extent that you're experiencing the regularity in the universe, the rationality that you're finding in the world is actually something that your understanding is putting on the world. So, three-dimensionality, right? All of my experience is in three-dimensionality and the flow of time and cause and effect. Well, that doesn't mean I'm discovering those facts about the world out there. I'm discovering the way that my brain is processing reality. The principle of sufficient reason seems to be true, but now it's no longer a truth about the way the world is. It's a truth about the way the world must appear to me. So, does the world make sense? Yes. Is there a God? Well, your mind kind of has to think in a way that would naturally lead to the conclusion that there is a God. The mind imposes the order of cause and effect onto the world. Can the mind get at the world outside of your experience? No, not really. So our reasoning about these things is limited for a Kantian, because the conclusions that you can safely reach need to be kind of limited to the realm of possible experience. Kind of like, within the matrix, physics works like this, but if I step out of the matrix, I don't know that physics works like that. So I think for a Kantian, knowledge of God is going to be strictly beyond the capacities of the mind, and that's why it's a matter of faith.